In 1967, a psychologist put a dog in a box and changed everything we thought we knew about the human mind. The dog could not escape. Electric shocks came at random intervals, with no warning, no pattern, no way to stop them. The dog tried everything. It jumped, it scratched, it pressed against the walls. Nothing worked. And then, after enough time, something strange happened. The dog stopped trying. It lay down. It accepted the shocks. It gave up. Then the researchers did something even more revealing. They opened the door. The dog did not move. The exit was right there. Freedom was inches away. But the dog had learned something so deeply, so completely, that even an open door could not undo it. It had learned that nothing it did made any difference. It had learned helplessness. Martin Seligman was a young researcher at the University of Pennsylvania when he witnessed this experiment. He did not know it yet, but what he was looking at would become one of the most important discoveries in the history of psychology. A discovery that would eventually explain depression, burnout, chronic stress, and a pattern of thinking that affects almost every human being alive today. But Seligman did not stop at dogs. He wanted to know if the same thing happened in people. And what he found was deeply unsettling. It did. You don't need electric shocks to learn helplessness. You don't need a box with no exit. All you need is enough experiences where your effort produced no result, where you tried and failed, where you worked and nothing changed, where you asked for help and nobody came, where you believed something would get better and it didn't. Repeat that enough times and the brain does something extraordinary. It stops believing that actions lead to outcomes. It disconnects the relationship between what you do and what happens to you. And once that connection breaks, the motivation to try dissolves. Not because you are lazy, not because you are weak, because your brain has run the calculation and concluded, based on all available evidence, that trying is pointless. This is learned helplessness, and it is far more common than most people realize. But here is what makes Seligman's research extraordinary. He didn't stop at discovering the problem. He kept asking questions. And the next question he asked changed everything again. Why didn't all the dogs give up? Because some didn't. Even after repeated uncontrollable shocks, even after every attempt at escape had failed, some dogs kept trying. Some dogs, when the door opened, walked right out. And Seligman wanted to know why. What was different about them? The answer led him to a concept that would eventually become the foundation of positive psychology. He called it explanatory style. The way you explain bad events to yourself. The story you tell about why things go wrong. People who develop learned helplessness, Seligman found, tend to explain bad events in 3 specific ways. They see them as permanent. This will always be this way. They see them as pervasive. This affects everything in my life. And they see them as personal. This is my fault. This is who I am. 3 P's. Permanent, pervasive, personal. When something goes wrong and your brain automatically translates it into, this will always happen, it affects everything, and it's because of who I am. You are running the helplessness program. And you are running it not because of what actually happened, but because of the story you told about it. The people who didn't give up, the resilient ones, the ones who walked through the open door, explained bad events differently. They saw them as temporary. This will pass. They saw them as specific. This is one area, not everything. And they saw them as external. This happened because of circumstances, not because of who I am. Same bad event. Completely different cognitive response. Completely different outcome. Now here is where this becomes deeply personal to you. Think about the last time something went wrong in your life. A relationship that ended. A job you didn't get. A project that failed. A conversation that didn't go the way you hoped. What did you tell yourself about it? Did you say, this is temporary, this is specific, this is circumstantial? Or did your brain go somewhere else? Did it say, this always happens to me, everything in my life is like this, this is who I am? Researcher Christopher Peterson, working with Seligman, developed a way to measure explanatory style. They called it the attributional style questionnaire. And when they gave it to large groups of people and followed them over time, the results were startling. Explanatory style predicted depression more accurately than almost any other factor they measured. More than life circumstances, more than income, more than relationship status. The story you tell yourself about why bad things happen turns out to be one of the most powerful forces shaping your mental health. But the research went further. In one remarkable study, Seligman and his team analyzed the explanatory styles of insurance salespeople and then tracked their sales performance over 2 years. The optimistic explainers, the ones who saw setbacks as temporary and specific, outsold their pessimistic counterparts by significant margins. Not because they were more talented, not because they worked longer hours, because when they lost a sale, they believed the next one was still possible. When they hit a wall, they still believed the door might open. The pessimistic explainers, when they lost a sale, updated their belief about the world. The world confirmed what they already suspected. Trying doesn't work. And that belief, silently, invisibly, began to determine how hard they tried next time. Think about what this means. Your explanatory style, the automatic story your brain tells about why things go wrong, is not just a mood. It is a performance variable. It shapes what you attempt. It shapes how long you persist. It shapes whether you walk through the door when it opens or lie down and accept the shocks. And the truly unsettling part is this. Most people have no idea their explanatory style exists. It runs in the background, like the oldest software on your computer. It fires automatically before you even finish processing what happened. Before you have had a chance to think clearly about what the setback actually means, your brain has already written the story. Psychologist Albert Bandura at Stanford University identified what he called self-efficacy, your belief in your own ability to produce results through your actions. And what he found was that self-efficacy is not fixed. It is not a trait you are born with or without. It is built through experiences where effort led to outcomes, and it is destroyed through experiences where it didn't. This is the real legacy of the dog in the box. Not a story about animals or psychology experiments. A story about what happens to any mind, human or otherwise, when it stops believing that what it does matters. The shocks don't have to be electric. They can be rejections, disappointments, failures, relationships that ended badly, opportunities that came and went, efforts that produced nothing. Repeated enough times, in the right configuration, with the right story attached, they teach the same lesson the box taught that dog. Nothing you do makes a difference. And here is the remarkable thing about learned helplessness. You can unlearn it. Seligman spent the second half of his career doing exactly that. He found that if you could interrupt the automatic explanatory story, if you could catch the 3 Ps and question them, you could retrain the brain's response to setbacks. Not overnight, not easily, but genuinely. The dog that lay in the box did not stay there forever. When researchers physically guided the dogs through the exit, when they demonstrated through action and experience that movement was still possible and that the door led somewhere, the dogs began to move on their own again. Sometimes the only way back is through someone or something that holds the door open long enough for you to remember that doors exist. Tonight, if something goes wrong, and something always goes wrong, notice the story your brain tells. Notice whether it reaches for permanent or temporary. Notice whether it reaches for everything or this one thing. Notice whether it reaches for who you are or what happened. Because in 1967, a dog in a box taught us that the most powerful prison is not made of walls. It is made of the belief that the door will never open. And you are not in a box. The door is already open. The only question is whether your brain has forgotten how to walk through it.